Hi again, Kelly Dean from the Tummy Team here, and we're going to talk about hypertonic pelvic floor. So if this is a new term for you, or if you're watching this video, you've probably heard this term, and often we are unfamiliar with what this means. And basically a hypertonic pelvic floor means excessively tight muscles in the pelvic floor region. And this can be incredibly confusing because often women are looking for solutions for what they're perceiving as weakness, maybe stress incontinence or prolapse or some intimacy issues. And so they are going into either a doctor or a pelvic floor PT to understand why are these muscles not working, and they are given a diagnosis, oh, the muscles are too tight. And then we start wondering, how can a muscle be weak and tight, right? But it absolutely is possible. I can have tight hamstrings. That doesn't necessarily mean that my hamstrings are strong. It just means that they're clenching all the time. They're not functioning when to contract and relax the way they should be in the function they need to. They're just tight all the time. So a tight muscle is not the same as a strong muscle, and a strong muscle should have the capacity to completely relax. I have really strong arm muscles and I can completely relax those muscles if I need to. So recognizing that pelvic floor, hypertonic pelvic floor, overly tight muscles in the pelvic floor, there's usually people are like, why did this happen? This is just a group of muscles that are trying to help you. When a muscle is tight, excessively tight, it's easy to think, oh, I need to release that muscle. I need to stretch this muscle. I need to relax that muscle. But I want you to take it a step further and think, I wonder why that muscle is tight. What does that muscle think that it's doing or needs to do and won't let go? Because there's a reason that the muscle is tight. And there's a couple, I'm just going to mention a few of those reasons. And some of these might resonate with you and some of them might not, because it's different for each client. But muscle imbalance can cause compensation. So if you have, you went through a birth and the baby kind of pushed more on one side than the other, and half of the vaginal wall is like stretched out, the other side of the vaginal wall might work extra hard to compensate for that weakness. So a muscle imbalance can cause compensations in the uninjured or the stronger muscle until it's so tight that it doesn't know how to let go, because it's doing a job and its job and another muscle's job at the same time. All right. So that's one reason. Poor training of the pelvic floor, overuse of Kegels, clenching, squeezing, clenching, squeezing, clenching, squeezing. The muscles of your pelvic floor, they're not a fist, they're not a squeeze toy. This is not the function. You know, yes, the muscles come around, but it's really a lifting. And when the muscles lift, the vaginal canal comes up like this. It's not a matter of doing this, it's a matter of lifting up. Okay, so if you're using the muscles incorrectly, squeezing, then they can almost get knots in those muscles or get excessive tension. If I was always squeezing a ball with my hands and never working on opening my hand would be in a fist all day long, right? And that's not very functional, because now I can't pick up anything, right? Yeah, I'd have really good grip strength, but there's more than grip strength required for my hand to work, all right? Muscle guarding or muscle bracing can also cause a hypertonic pelvic floor and increased tension in your pelvic floor. And this could be for a number of reasons. Most commonly, it's somebody that has chronic pain, maybe chronic pain with intimacy or chronic pain in their pelvis from some kind of injury or trauma, abuse or a birth trauma can cause that. Or even like a crash or a wipeout on your bike when you were young, or some kind of injury that caused your body to guard because it was going to hurt. Even just like stuff like chronic UTIs or passing of a kidney stone or something like that can cause you to clench or tense up those muscles to protect or guard from injury, and that can kind of spiral out of control. Instability, if you have a lot of hypermobility in your pelvis, where your joints are very loose, whether it's related to pregnancy or postpartum, or if it's just related to just how you're genetically made up, you're a little bit hypermobile. The laxity in the pelvic joints can cause the pelvic muscles to go on over fire to help match that laxity, and they can go too much too fast, and that can cause some hypertonicity. A very common thing we see is powering through life, a stress response, and we have a lot of women that are used to just like maybe have multiple kids, multiple responsibilities, a high intense job. They're a really competitive athlete, and they've trained themselves to just power through and power through and power through. And so they hold excessive tension in the deep stabilizers of their pelvic floor. And we see this also with people that are under a lot of stress that maybe clench their jaw or have TMJ. There's a connection with tension here and tension in your pelvic floor. And so that can also contribute to a hypertonic pelvic floor. So that's just probably the most common things we see. There's obviously other reasons that you might have a hypertonic pelvic floor, but understanding that traditionally how you might approach fixing that, or repairing that, or restoring that, or rehabilitating that, is not just squeezing more, right? Not just holding more or doing more traditional Kegels. The treatment is actually more of what we consider our functional pelvic floor rehab process. And you can't just tell a muscle to relax. If a muscle is holding because it's doing a job that it believes it needs to do, relaxing that muscle is very, very difficult. All right. So our approach is actually to identify what is missing in your alignment, in your stability, in the strength of your body, and replace what is missing, repair what is missing. Maybe that's core strength. Maybe that's another area that needs to be balanced out. We balance that out, and then we release that muscle. It's much easier to release a muscle that isn't feeling like it's desperately needed to grip. Okay, and there's a process to that, a step-by-step process, but it's an effective process, and it's different than what you might think. But it also strengthens your pelvic floor effectively without more gripping and clenching and tension that's unnecessary. And you want to think about your pelvic floor just like every other muscle. If I was lifting something with my arms, and let's say that what I was lifting is like 1 pound, right? And then another time I'm picking up something that's 50 pounds. If I use the 50-pound effort for the 1 pound over and over again, my muscles are going to be tight and holding all the time. But it's unnecessary for the 1 pound of effort required. So really trying to not just understand what strength you need, when that strength needs to be applied, and when the relaxation, the resiliency, the balance between stretching and strengthening, stretching and strengthening to allow the pelvic floor to do all the jobs it's meant to do. Okay? And that's our process here at the Tummy Team. So check out what we do. We'd love to give you more information, and check out specifically our Floor of Your Core online rehab program. It's a great way for you to heal and restore your pelvic floor so that you have the strength for the life that you are meant to live. Okay? Let us help you. Thanks so much.